Hey folks, it's Rob and welcome back. We're continuing our series today on the Monstrous Compendium Appendix for the Mystara setting from 1994's TSR. Welcome to part 43, where we're on page 115. That's right. There's only going to be a few more episodes on this book, and then we're going to be moving on to our next project, which, confidentially, I've decided is going to be the expert book. We'll be doing the expert box set next. So, I was gonna maybe run a poll, but I decided, you know what, I really do want to do the expert box set and maybe do eventually all the box sets along the way. But that's what we'll do next, and then I'll think about what to do after that. But I mean, that's another long term. These are all long term projects. They don't take 2 days. We're on part 43 of this, and I record these on a weekly basis. So, I mean, this has been the work of almost a year. Um, all of that aside, this is not what we're here for. As you can see, we have on here a pretty neat looking monster. And is it a monster or is it really just a humanoid, right? It's got this, first off, it looks a lot like a sea turtle, right? That's what it looked like to me with the kind of, admittedly, okay, once again, we're washed out, right? This nose here is kind of yellow beakish. It's obviously a turtle or tortoise or something like that. Its name is Tortle, so we're going to say tortoise, right? It has, interestingly, a quiver in a pack and a book here. That's what this yellow object is. It's wielding a spear with a blunt knocking end on here. That's got a particular name that escapes me at the moment, but it's basically like a polearm staff weapon. It's got, I'm going to call it some kind of water or drinking vessel. No, that's the bow. That's what this is. Got string here. I know it looked a bit like a bottle to begin with, but actually that would definitely be this Tortle's bow. And, it's got some kind of sling holster arrangement. I think it's a nice execution of an interesting little piece of art. I think it's quite attractive for a creature in this catalog. And obviously, at this point, it's 1994. I'm going to just get that out here. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had already been popular for quite some time at this point, to the point of having major movie releases. Not just an animated series, not just an indie comic series that blew up. I was familiar with it from the comic, not to be some kind of hipster, but I did also enjoy the animated series at the time. And it eventually went to Saturday mornings. Initially, I thought it was on syndication, if I recall correctly. But I was kind of grown out of it by the time it really hit the movies. So I'm not that kind of turtle fan in that regard. But I did used to play from Palladium Books, completely different role-playing system, along with my friends, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game. And particularly, we tended to enjoy playing After the Bomb, which is, well, frankly, after the nuclear war has hit the turtle world and universe, as it were. So you're really kind of out on a tangent there compared to like regular games, but this would be something very much, to bring this back on subject, this would be very much like something like a character I might have created. In that it is a robust looking tortoise. Although I tend to go in for like a Shire horse as a base. Way off topic. I'm sorry. Tortle. Now, so you can see we have two subtypes. So we have the Tortle and we have the Snapper, right? Snapping turtles are vicious little monsters you don't want to run into in the wild. Definitely keep anything soft and fleshy away from that mouth of theirs. I think my father disposed of one once that was on the farm because it was a danger to the cattle. and everything else because it was in the watering hole. But again, let's get on with this. This is what you're here for. You're not here for me just rambling and wandering off. Tortle, climate terrain, non-Arctic swamp, forest, beaches. For the snapper, non-Arctic ocean, coasts. Frequency, rare in both cases. Tortles are solitary or clans, while snappers are in packs. Tortles and snappers are day active. Tortles are omnivores, while snappers are carnivores. I think you're getting a feeling out how this is going to go. Intelligence, average, 8 to 10 for both of them. Tortles have a treasure type E in their lair, while snappers have a treasure type U. Here's our digression. Tortles are lawful good, while snappers are lawful evil. So, to remember, basic Dungeons & Dragons does not have this like lawful good, neutral, or evil. It just has lawful, and it has neutral, and it has chaotic. But those are basically shorthand for, in a way, good, neutral, and evil. Now, the second edition of Dungeons & Dragons uses the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons First Edition alignment system, and that is the 9-point alignment system of lawful good ranging to chaotic evil with a true neutral right in the middle, but also including like lawful neutral and chaotic neutral, that kind of thing. There's even a chaotic good and a lawful evil. And there is neutral good and neutral evil. Lawful evil tends to be shorthand for slavers, honestly. They tend to have rules and laws, but also tend to be cruel and selfish, right? The letter of the law is the law, right? Chaotic good tends to be for the good of us all. Screw you and your rules, right? Lawful good, sometimes portrayed as lawful stupid, but really it just means that a lawful and peaceful kind of approach to things. But it doesn't mean that they won't fight and that they're dumb. Again, another tangent today. I'm just tangent central, I guess. So, Tortles, 1d6 appear, while snappers have a d20 appear. Armor class for the Tortle, 3 or -1. I guess we'll get into that. Snappers have an armor class of 5. Movement on land is 3 for the Tortle and for the snapper. But in swimming, 3 for the Tortle. So it's just slow all around. While the snapper can swim at 18, which is faster than a human can move, unassisted. Tortles have a hit dice of 4. Snappers have a hit dice of 3. They both have a 2-hit AC 0 of 17. Number of attacks, 3 or 2 in both cases. The Tortle gets a D4 claw and a D4 claw and a D6 bite, or D6 bite and by weapon, hence the weapons here. Snappers get D6 claw, 2D4 bite, or 2D4 bite and by weapon. No special attacks, defenses, or magic resistance in either. Getting ahead of myself. No special attacks. The Tortle gets a special defensive shell, while the snapper has no special defense. Magic resistance is nil in either case. Size medium, 6 foot tall for the Tortle, 6 foot plus for the snapper, so they're going to be a bit bigger. Morale elite for the Tortle at 14, while the snapper is a slightly more steady at 11. XP value for a Tortle is 175, while for a snapper is 120. Tortles are land-dwelling humanoid tortoises. They walk upright, but with a ponderous rolling gait. They have leathery, reptilian skin and massive shells that cover most of their bodies. Only their heads and limbs stick out of their shells. Tortles usually have olive green or blue-green skin. Their back shells are shinier and darker than their skin, and their front shells tend to be lighter, often with a touch of yellow. Tortles rarely wear clothing except for belts and harnesses for carrying tools and supplies. I mean, shells. An adult tortle stands about 6 feet tall because of the heavy shell. An adult tortle weighs close to 500 pounds. So, think quite stocky and, heavily built, as pictured below. Combat. Tortles do not wear armor, but they can retreat into their shells for protection. When fully withdrawn inside its shell, a tortle cannot move or attack, but its armor class drops to -1. In addition, the tortle gains a +4 bonus to all saving throws, even versus mental attacks, as the tortle not only receives the full benefit of its massive shell, but also marshals all its inner strength for defense. A withdrawn tortle can hear and smell, but it cannot see and is immune to gaze attacks. An unarmed tortle uses its claws and horny beak in combat. When prepared for battle, tortles arm themselves with some sort of missile weapon, usually a short bow or light crossbow, and a polearm or two-handed sword. In melee, an armed tortle can strike with its weapon and bite. In battle, one or more tortles often engage the enemy in melee, and then to retreat into their shells while their comrades appear from hiding and pepper the enemy with arrows. Tortles are clumsy swimmers. They simply float on the surface and paddle with their limbs. They can, however, hold their breath underwater for 10 turns. That would be 100 minutes. So, impressive. Their natural flotation usually allows them to slither through mud, bogs, and quicksand with ease. So imagine that they are quite slow in general, what would be about a third the speed of an average human being. But they aren't slowed down by things like mud, quicksand, the perennial, disaster waiting to happen for you in your childhood. They can go out on the water, they can cross the swamp and bog, but they don't do it quickly. Personally, I think I would have them also, if you need to have one get around faster, maybe they use some kind of tamed animal to haul a cart, right? The imagination expands on the concept, right? If I wanted to use one, I certainly probably would want to use one if it struck me. Like, it seems like an excellent temporary NPC to add to the party that, to motivate them to guide them with the swamp or something like that. Lots of ideas. Habitat/society. Tortles prefer warm climate. They have little tolerance for cold, and tortles living in temperate areas migrate to warmer lands when winter draws near. Most tortles live alone in small cabins or farmsteads. However, they keep in close contact with all their tortle neighbors. A tortle depends on its neighbors for defense, help in erecting and repairing buildings, and harvesting crops. Every tortle dwelling has an alarm, gong, or horn. Tortles are tolerant of neighboring humans, elves, or halflings, but tend to keep to themselves. Tortles are too bulky to use mounts, but do use wagons and draft animals to travel rapidly. There we go. Ecology. Tortles live 40 to 50 years. That's fairly short. Females lay eggs only once during their lives. About 6 months before egg laying, the females gather in stone-walled compounds. There they meet aging males and other members of the tortle community. While the females lay their eggs, the other tortles wall off the compounds. The female dies soon after laying their eggs. Aging males watch over the eggs and do not eat or sleep until they hatch. These guardians die soon after the young tortles emerge. The remaining tortles gather up their young and return home to raise them. Oh, that's all quite sad. Snapper. Snappers are marine nomads related to tortles. They look much like tortles, except they are much broader and more massive. Adult snappers are slightly larger than 6 feet and can weigh as much as 1,000 pounds. Those specimens typically weigh no more than 700 pounds. Snappers are adapted for swimming, their shells are streamlined, and their hands and feet are webbed. Snappers cannot retreat into their streamlined shells. On land, they are just as clumsy as Tortles, but in water, they are very agile. Armed snappers favor nets, tridents, and spears. Like Tortles, they can bite while fighting with a weapon. Snappers roam warm ocean waters seeking prey. Despite their lawful alignment, they have no recognized leaders, but form small groups governed by mutual consent. So think that they would have policy, right? They would have guidelines and rules in that case. Possibly something your players could make use of if they were caught in an encounter with them, right? Let's do the next page, 116. Interesting. A Velya Vampire. You're like, what? A vampire named Velya? No. Page 116, Vampire, Velya. Climate/terrain, ocean or swamp. Frequency very rare. Organization solitary. Activity cycle night. Diet blood. Intelligence average to very 10 to 12. Treasure type F. Alignment chaotic evil. Number appearing 1. Armor class 3. Movement swimming 12 or as animal. Hit dice 7. To hit AC 0, 13. Number of attacks 1 or as animal. Damage attack is a D8 touch or as animal. However, special attacks are energy drain, charm, shape change. Special defenses are regeneration, immune to normal weapons and some spells. Magic resistance nil, size medium, 6 foot tall. Morale fanatic 18, which is a little different for undead, but sorry to spill the beans there, but I think you probably would have worked it out by now anyway. But vampires do tend to have a retreat aspect to them. XP value 5,000. Velya are a form of underwater vampire. They were once surface dwellers who became undead through an ancient curse. In its natural form, a Velya looks like a blue-skinned human with gills and clawed hands and feet. Velya in human form are comely, but have a feral appearance with wild eyes, tangled hair, and tattered shroud-like clothing. So let's go to the picture, which is a little darker blue in my hand, and there are a lot of very faint bubbles in the scan that are more lost than what I'm holding. This is like a silver kind of gauntlet bracelet here, although this hand, those metacarpals are really long, right? And I don't know how you operate anything with these fingernails, but people do. It's weird. I've encountered it in my professional life, all my life. I don't know what you do with those fingernails, and I don't know if I want to know. But the toenails are the same, by the way. But yes, comely, no. Not even feral appearance, just downright, undead, out to eat you appearance. Yes. Got the teeth, you got the face here. Yes, you got the hair. We're trying to portray water, right? I think it's an effective piece of art. Does it agree with the description of being a comely human? No, I would say not. Combat. At will, Velya can assume the form of a great white shark, a manta ray, or a current of water. Each change takes 1 round. The Velya's armor class, hit points, to hit AC 0, saving throws, and morale remain unchanged. In shark or manta ray form, the Velya moves and attacks like the animal with swimming rate of 24 as a shark or 18 as a manta ray. In watery form, a Velya has a swimming rate of 18 but cannot attack or suffer damage. While some spells might affect the Velya's watery form, none can inflict damage. That's effectively the gaseous form of a vampire, but for underwater, right? Um, Velya in human form swim at a rate of 12 and can deliver a touch attack that delivers 1d8 points of damage and drains 1 energy level. A Velya is usually accompanied by 1d6 marine wights. With a land movement rate of 12 and a swimming rate of 9, a Velya can summon 3d6 common sharks with 3 to 6 hit dice each, which arrive in 1d4 rounds. So this is quite a little combat encounter we got going on here, right? It's a 7 hit dice primary monster, but it's also accompanied by a number of wights and a bunch of sharks. So your action economy is certainly quite variable here. Velya in human form can sing. A Velya song can be heard up to a mile away and can charm any living creature within 200 feet who fails the saving throw versus spell. If the saving throw succeeds, the target is immune to that particular Velya song for 24 hours. The charm can be dispelled, as if it was spell cast at 12th level, but such a victim remains susceptible to the song and can easily be charmed again until he or she makes a successful saving throw. Please feel free to use whatever dumb song you feel like to simulate this. But, yeah, so they have a siren effect, right? Characters slain by a Velya return from death after 3 days and become wights under the Velya's control. Only a transfusion of the Velya's blood or original curse, now forgotten, can make a Velya. So if you wanted to somehow become a Velya, you would need to give a blood transfusion from the Velya to the wight-inflicted victim already, right? Although maybe you could bypass it. Just go straight to being a Velya through the blood transfusion. Why you would want to do this, possibly an evil person wants to do this and thinks they can keep their mind or something. I don't know. Why do people want to become vampires? People want to become vampires every day. They don't want to become Nosferatu vampires, though. They want to become twinkly vampires, which is basically human plus. You know. Why do people fear death? It might well be the question, right? Velya are immune to sleep, charm, and hold spells, very typical. Cold or electricity inflicts only half damage on them, and they are immune to non-magical weapons. If damaged, a Velya regenerates 2 hit points a round. During the day, a Velya must rest in a submerged, lightless crypt. Velya crypts usually are ancient burial chambers hidden within sunken cities, but any enclosed, utterly dark place will serve. If a bless spell is cast on the crypt and a holy symbol is left in it, a Velya can never rest there again, even if the holy symbol is later removed. If a Velya is reduced to 0 hit points or fewer, it automatically assumes its watery form and returns to its crypt, where it must rest a full day. Most Velya maintain several locations, usually within cave complexes or wrecked ships, that they can use as crypts if the need arises. If a Velya fails to rest in its crypt, it suffers 2d8 points of damage each day. These points cannot be regenerated until the Velya rests in its crypt for a full day. A Velya can be destroyed by exposing its whole body to open air, by driving a wooden stake through its heart while it lies in its crypt, or by disintegration, which is a spell, not an easy one to get a hold of for most parties, right? You know, GM doesn't necessarily want to hand out a disintegration spell, you know. But, you know, if you got one, sure, that'll answer the problem. You can probably wish it away, too, for that matter. A Velya cannot approach within 10 feet of a strongly presented holy symbol, although it can attack from another direction. Velya cannot leave the water. Those who do completely disintegrate after 1d4 rounds. The Velya suffers no ill effects, however, so long as the least part of its body stays submerged. If the Velya returns to the water before it disintegrates, it still loses half of its original hit points. So if you can somehow propel it out of the water, that's a good way to kill it. Obviously, if it's on the shore, it might still have a toe dipped in the water or something. But, if you can get it out of the water, it certainly would be a good way to get a lot of the hit points off of it. Habitat/society. Velya are solitary creatures who prey mercilessly on the living. They are usually found in ancient cities which have sunk beneath the waves. Ecology. Like vampires, Velya sustain themselves with blood drawn from living victims. Swamp Velya. This form of Velya is found in marshes, fens, and bogs. Its non-human forms include an albino crocodile, movement rate 6, swimming rate 12, a giant white eel, swimming rate 9, or a water current, swimming rate 18. Swamp Velya can summon 3d6 normal crocodiles, which arrive in 1d4 rounds. Swamp Velya are otherwise identical to Ocean Velya, so I imagine they have the whites as well. Really could have used more than just this small paragraph here on that, probably. But it's otherwise the same as the other creature, I guess. I get it, but like you started a whole tangent and you did it in like 1 inch of column space. Not like I never do that, huh? Sorry. We'll stop it there. Thank you very much for joining me today. I appreciate the time and attention you give to me and my channel. I hope you have a very pleasant and fantastic day. See you next time. Goodbye.